we really started growing. So we kind of took the basics of that and some ideas from the Vern Harnishes of the world and the Sean Coveys of the world and Jim Collins of the world. And we kind of built a lot of custom tools, and we built our own system, which we call the Elite Execution System, which is what I wrote a book on called Building Elite Organization that we run today, built the technology on, and teach to other developers and operators, help them implement and run their business on it today.
What do you feel like have been some of the greatest challenges that you've overcome inside of your own organization?
So there's only one real challenge at the end of the day, in my opinion, or all challenges all revert back to one singular issue at the end of the day, which is leadership. Every problem you have in your organization comes down to leadership. So everything that we've ever had that hasn't gone right or isn't going right, or we're not executing as well as we want, or not getting the results we want, or having struggles or challenges, always comes down to leadership. Every problem you have is a leadership problem, whether you realize it or not. So that's where I've put, for the last 10 years of my life, yes, I'm involved in raising capital, and we raise lots of capital, right? I'm involved in doing deals. I'm involved in operations. I drive the engine of a lot of the organization, even though we have 300 plus corporate team members. Yet, with all the things I'm involved in, the number one and number two allocation of my time for the last 10 years have been hiring leaders and developing leaders. So I spend well over half my time on out hiring. I average 6 to 8 interviews a week, have for 10 plus years. And I do 6 to 8 one-on-one meetings with my leaders a week, focusing on developing leadership, developing capacity, developing abilities to execute. So that's that level of dedication and discipline around hiring and developing of leadership, right, is not typical, I find, in most CEOs or leaders. But I've realized the importance of that, and that's the fundamental reason to how we've been able to have the sustained level of growth we've had through multiple cycles, launching many different business lines, et cetera, and sustain it has been not, I wouldn't say we've kept up with leadership to the growth of the organization, but we've been close to keeping up, right? So we're always feeling we're fighting to have enough quality leaders and have them at the place of leadership level, be able to keep up with the goals and direction of the organization, but it's a conscious, focused effort.
When you say, and I'm not sure I have the right question for this, but when you say developing leaders, meeting with your leaders, obviously, KPIs, things like that are important, but there's a lot of kind of soft skill in leadership that maybe can't be measured on a spreadsheet. There's interpersonal skills, there's things like that are just, you just can't measure it. How are you effectively developing leaders? Like, what are things that you say, man, these are things when someone comes into our organization that I really, when I onboard them, I want them to understand?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. And so the best book on leadership that's ever been written, in my humble opinion, is called The 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. It's a classic. It's the best understanding of leadership. And John Maxwell himself has written 100 books on leadership. This is the best book. And so the way I think about it is most people, and if you haven't read the book, I won't go too deep in the weeds to people, but level 3 leadership is where most people never achieve, which is to be able to consistently generate and produce results with and through a team. And so I realized that in my organization that I have a lot of people who had leadership titles and some influence because of who they are, and they're great people and encouraging, great cheerleaders and so forth, but weren't able to consistently generate results. And so I spent probably a couple years really evaluating all of our leaders internally and externally in terms of what are the things that great leaders do? What are those? And you said the kind of soft skills, the things that really make a difference. And so the first thing, backtrack just a quick second, that we do is every time we hire a leader or hire any person in the organization, we clearly identify before we even start searching for the person, but then once we hire them, we identify, we call it the RREK, which stands for role, responsibilities, expectations, and key numbers. So every person at DLP knows what the key numbers are that they're responsible for, the KPIs, as you said, and they know exactly what the expectations are. My belief, especially the people we hire, but most people want to win, right? Most people want to do good, right? They want to be successful. But a lot of people in most organizations, especially entrepreneurial organizations, don't know what success is. It's never even been measured. So they don't even know what they're aiming for because no one's defined what success is for their job. So that's the first place that most organizations, most companies fall down. But once we've identified success, if they're not achieving success, they're not achieving their goals, we have to figure out why that is, right? Is it, hopefully it's not the case. This is a hiring issue. If it's a will issue, right? They're not willing to do the work, right? But if they have a skill issue, right? An ability issue, we've developed over, again, a couple of years, the 24 consistent practices of highly effective leaders. So some examples of those are, discipline and building habits. So they're struggling with keeping up with the whirlwind, right? They don't have the discipline and structure to their life, let alone their business, right? Do more than you ask for others, make hard decisions, have difficult conversation. We call alignment, being aligned. And we have a whole method around that. Listening, speaking simply and directly, coaching, teaching, follow through, buy-in, collaboration, emotional fortitude. Those are some of the examples. And we actually have people self-assess themselves against those. And we have then their leader assess them across those. And just by categorizing those things that a lot of would be considered soft skills, categorizing them in that way, and then be able to give clear feedback. It helps sometimes when you feel like, I don't know how to guide them on what they're doing wrong, right? When I can look at this list of 24 practices, I can see, hey, you've really been struggling with being able to critically think through an issue and be able to kind of lay out solutions, right? And give guidance on how to get better on that and how to improve and so forth. So it takes a lot of work and time, and you have to first care enough to do it, right? So I always tell people, the key in building a great organization is investing in your people, and you can't fake it, right? You can't fake it. You generally have to care, in order to really invest in your people and invest in them as a whole. And that's one of the other quick notes that we invest a lot in. So I believe one of our core values is called living fully. And I believe living fully is when you're achieving success and significance across all areas of your life. And we categorize life across 8 areas: faith, family, friends, freedom, fun, fulfillment, fitness, and finance. We have an assessment process. People can assess themselves, and we want to help people. The way I think about it simply is, if you worked in my organization, I want you to be a great father, a great husband, a great leader in your church, whatever the things that are important to you, as well as certainly being very productive in your work, right? But those aren't contradictory. We call it work-life integration. We want people who are successful in achieving their goals in all areas of life. And by investing in people as a whole, every person in our organization has a personal compass. They have a goal to what's their own core values, their mission, their family BHAG, what they want to accomplish in 100 years. And we help them, achieve their goals and connect what they really want to get out of life and have fulfillment and so forth. And so there's a couple notes on building leaders.
I love that. No, that's absolutely awesome. And I think that's a tough thing to tackle, a tough thing to, as you well know, building leaders inside of your organization. That's a lot of work, and it's a lot of planning and probably delayed gratification, I would even imagine, as you look at it and go, okay, yes, I'm going to invest this in you. And then it could be 2 or 3 years before we start to see fruit. But yet it is that constant cultivation of both culture and people, I think, that has taken you to where you are today. Turn left a little bit in this conversation. You guys are involved in a whole suite of real estate investments, everything from, I think it was, maybe I misunderstood this, but build to rent communities to lend